The Clinton email probe. FBI Director James Comey getting criticism for the timing of his letter to Congress, reopening that email investigation just days before the presidential election. Joining me right now is Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz, chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
What would you like to see done here?
I'd like to see a thorough review of what happened from top to bottom, because I think Democrats have some legitimate concerns about timing. I think a number of Republicans have questions about Bill Clinton, the spouse of somebody who's under investigation, meeting with the Attorney General. We have Peter Kadzik, who was evidently giving information to Democrats. He's the legislative liaison. That's a question. You have conflict of interest questions about the FBI, where the number 2 or 3 person at the FBI, his wife is running for political office in Virginia. It gets some $600,000 or so, or at least in that neighborhood, and the timing of that maybe should have prompted this FBI official to step away from the Clinton investigation. So there's a lot of questions on both sides of the aisle. And the best way to do that is to have the Inspector General spend the next year, Michael Horowitz, and find out the truth.
Well, how will you ensure that the Inspector General does go through all of those things? I mean, for the most part, you've heard Hillary Clinton basically blame Jim Comey for her not winning the election, basically saying, well, you know, it's his fault that he came out with the pushback 2 days before the election or 3 days before the election. I mean, that's the basic crux of the criticism from the left. And they're not necessarily talking about the fact that Loretta Lynch, the leading law enforcement person in the country, had that meeting with Bill Clinton on the plane. So how do you ensure that actually those things are going to get covered?
Well, I think Hillary Clinton lost the election for a lot of reasons. Probably first and foremost that Donald Trump had a better message and a better vision for America. But I think for some people it was a contributing factor, because this investigation, I think, pointed out that Hillary Clinton lied again and couldn't be trusted. Nevertheless, Michael Horowitz is the Inspector General. He's widely respected attorney. He has some 500 people there at the Department of Justice in the Inspector General's office to do this investigation. I think he has a great deal of credibility on both sides of the aisle, and a year or so from now, I would hope that he would come before our committee and explain and answer questions from both sides of the aisle, what he did, what he found, and what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that we don't hear more about that meeting. I mean, I think reporters just tripped over the meeting with Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton. It was a private meeting for 45 minutes, and there were no aides in that meeting taking notes.
Yeah, this is highly suspicious, because it seemed to set off this domino effect where suddenly then you had the FBI director doing something that is generally unprecedented, and that is giving this press conference and him taking the lead as if he was the prosecutor. Our read of what the FBI is supposed to be doing is investigate, then turn over that material to the Attorney General's office to make a determination about prosecution. But for him to wear both hats, why did he have to do that? And what were the ramifications of that? Were they stepping out of their normal processes? And I think Democrats and Republicans both have criticism for how it was handled.
Let me ask you to look ahead for us and tell us a bit about your agenda and what you're expecting to be overseeing and handling in the next 4 years. I know that it's a lot broader in terms of measures to fire feds faster, pay some feds more, change the retirement system for new hires. What are your priorities, Congressman?
Well, the first 2 years where I've been the chairman, we heard time and time again people in the federal government saying we can't ever fire somebody if we do have a bad apple. Most government workers, they're actually good, decent, patriotic people, but sexual harassment and sexual misconduct, for instance, within the federal workforce, we need to define that. Even within the Department of Justice, they have different standards, different definitions, different penalties. So civil service reform. We're also looking at retirement reform, because if you want to change the financial trajectory of the budget and the deficit and this massive debt, you're going to have to look at how we compensate federal employees. And for future generations, there's a lot of reform that we can do. So I think you'll actually see more reform now that the Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and our committee will be a vital part of that.
Do all of the positions change with the new administration? For example, what about the head of the IRS, Koskinen, who, you know, Republicans have been asking for his head now for years, ever since targeting conservatives? And what about Jim Comey? Should he step down?
Some of these are appointed for set terms, but I think the president does have great latitude in these. I would like to see John Koskinen go. I think he is not serving the best interests of the United States of America. I think he should have departed a long time ago. But there are about 4,500 presidential appointments, political appointments that the president gets to make, and it's going to change the trajectory of the government. I couldn't be more excited.
Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Maria.
We'll see you soon. Jason Chaffetz there. Let's get a look at what's coming up top of the hour on Media Buzz. Here's Howie Kurtz. And wow, do you have a full plate of topics to go through this weekend, Howie?
Good morning, Maria. We've got Sean Spicer, the incoming White House press secretary, leading off the program, talking about his criticism of BuzzFeed and CNN over that unverified dossier. Congressman John Lewis's remarks about Trump being an illegitimate president. We'll get Spicer's reaction also. Martha McCallum on covering Trump's first 100 days. Trish Regan on Trump's business empire and how he's going to deal with the conflicts. And just a deep dive on the media ethics surrounding the coverage of this president on the eve of the inauguration on Media Buzz.
All right, we will be there. We'll see you in about 20 minutes, Howie. A civil rights